Welcome to the breakout sessions for Octane 21. I'm John Pritchard, and I lead developer relations here at Okta. And today I'm joined by John Fly, Director of Engineering at SmileDirect Club. Welcome, John. It's great to have you.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Our talk is actually one of two at Octane 21 this year that is focused on developers, which I think goes to show you how important customer identity is becoming to developing experience applications. Now, John, you've been building and designing these kinds of applications for some time. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background?
I've done software and software engineering for probably over 20 years. Often when you're building applications, you get into access and identity management, especially when you're dealing with end users. This experience with SmileDirect Club has been very similar to those of my past, where we're trying to build an experience for our users, and the identity access management is critical for security, but we really just need it to kind of disappear into the background.
So when it comes to identity, you've kind of done everything from build it yourself to full-on SaaS integration. It sounds like any major lessons from that experience?
Don't build it yourself is the biggest one. Yeah, I've worked with a lot of identity and access management platforms, from roll your own to open source, popular open source packages, large ones from Microsoft and Oracle, AWS and cloud providers. And this last experience with Okta was just head and shoulders above the rest. Main takeaway is if you can work with an expert, do it.
Now, your company, SmileDirect Club, I think is described as a teledentistry company, if I got that term correctly. However, when you and I met earlier, I was really fascinated about how you were talking about the way you guys think about yourselves, much more as an experience company. We're going to talk in a minute about all the great work I think you and your team have done. And it's a really great story, I think, from the architecture and the implementation, with a lot of lessons for our audience today. But I think it'd be really helpful for you to frame up this perspective of how you guys see yourself, because I think it gives a whole lot of color to what you guys are developing and the role that customers really play for you guys.
Sure. So I've been with SmileDirect Club for about a year and a half. The company's quite young. You can see, founded in 2014. So what we do is we provide clear aligners, similar to other companies in the space, but we're a direct to consumer. You don't have to visit an orthodontist. We have those on staff that review your teeth and scans from our Smile Shops or our impression kits. We very much see ourselves as providing a life-changing service to our customers. You just don't come to our web, e-commerce site and purchase the product. We want to support the end user from getting the right fit all the way through the treatment, and then after. We impact lives. I myself going through treatment right now, and my smile has not really been my teeth haven't been the worst, but they bothered me my entire life, especially as I got older. And being able to have that, straight teeth, just really does give people the opportunity to smile and engage more. And we get stories all the time from customers where, they really do express that we've helped change their life in a positive way. And so you're not just shopping and buying something from us. You're a customer, you're a patient. We want to really deliver a quality product end to end.
I mean, it's one thing, I think, as a developer to have people know about what you build. I mean, how often have we, been at family events and you're trying to describe who you work for, and there's really no concept or connection. In your guys' case, you've got only that. But I think it's fascinating, this sort of transformational effect of what you guys do for people. That must be super rewarding for, like, as a developer or even as an employee of the company, for having an opportunity to engage with customers like that.
100%. Each week, our CMO sends an email to the entire company with customer feedback, always with photos, and it's just terrific. You can really see, like the beginning photos, and then, usually they're closed mouthed and kind of reserved, but our typical treatments just, like 4 to 6 months, complete transformation. You see people just beaming, excited to be out there. Our software helps people, change their lives for the better.
Yeah, I can't again just being a part of a company where you're working on the product, quote, behind the scenes, and sort of seeing that huge effect must be just completely rewarding for you guys as an organization.
Very much so.
All right, let's talk a bit about the project then. How did this start? What are some of your key considerations as you guys are going into this? Let's give a little bit of background and context for where you guys started.
I came into the company November 2019. Uh, Even in my interview, we're talking about um, some type of identity access management coming into our web system. So when I started the company, we were, traditional web e-commerce. We were planning though to roll out, a new, V2 web experience. We were looking to, by the end of 2020, launch a mobile experience, native mobile. So we knew the landscape was going to change quite a bit in the next few months. And again, access and identity management is critical to tying that together, to giving a user in our system, a customer in our system, that one identity that ties them across all those experiences. And when we were talking about, what are we going to use? Do we roll our own, or do we use this or that? When Okta came up, I said, I'll throw my weight behind Okta 100%. This is an area where we can't really afford to take a misstep. And it's not an area where we're going to, differentiate ourselves in the market. We just need a rock solid solution that's going to be able to integrate into our existing web, and then be there for us with our next web, and then slide into our mobile solutions. So along with that, some of our goals were basically we wanted to do this existing system transition without any disruption in letting our patients connect with our dental team and get the treatment that they need. So we had to be highly responsive and couldn't risk any downtime.
So you guys had a previous experience. Obviously, you're going through this modernization effort through some incremental delivery, and it sounds like you need like on-demand fallback should something go wrong. How important in some of your architectural decisions was the choice of SaaS versus sort of doing something on premise?
The real strength in looking at something SaaS based is we reduce our risk, right? We don't have to concern ourselves with network infrastructure, monitoring, alerting, and that. We are able to leverage a platform where you guys take care of all that for us, and we don't have to apply updates. We just focus on implementing your functionality in our applications. And because Okta had an integration for our existing web product, and we were able to plan for an incremental rollout, we also knew it would be their native integration for mobile and client-side web, which is where we're going. It was really a no-brainer. It was kind of, let our developers work on the features and user experience that's going to impact our users, and leverage Okta for the expertise that you guys bring.
So let's talk a bit about that concept of incremental delivery. Can you describe a little bit maybe some of your phasing there?
Sure. So what we wanted to do was kind of dip our toe in the water, I guess. So instead of just having a big switch day where we're going to turn on Okta and turn off our existing identity system, we made sure to capture information as people were logging into the system, provisioning user accounts, and securely managing the system, and then also making sure that the Okta user experience matched 100% our existing user experience. So there really wasn't any confusion on the part of our users. It was just, it looked the same one moment to the next as we did that incremental rollout. We let that incremental rollout and provisioning process kind of sit and take place over a number of weeks. And when we felt 100% confident that, we had done our part in implementing the Okta solution, at that point, we turned off the now legacy login system.
I see. So the idea of transitioning your customers, that's how you sort of brought them along. They were getting incrementally new capabilities that was still seamless with their experience and still giving them all the capabilities you had in your previous system, but it was more personalized as you guys made future deliveries.
Yeah, 100%. So just in as far as like schedule, we started off the year with the e-commerce web with plans to launch mobile, and that's what we did. So the users continued to interact with our e-commerce web solution. We did the incremental phase in of Okta. Once that was solid, we turned off the legacy. And at that point, all users were essentially authenticating through Okta, right? We had that single sign-on capability there at the ready. And then when we launched mobile, in Q4 around November last year, uh, we simply launched with Okta integration first day. And so, from the user's perspective, there was no change. It was uh, no big shift on the web. When mobile launched, they signed in with their, SmileDirect Club credentials,
Mhm.
and they had, there was really no need to involve them in our change up of identity provider.
All right, so I think you're starting to describe a bit a part of the components you guys use. Let's talk a bit about the
Yeah,
architecture then. So
sure.
you mentioned this was part of an architectural modernization effort. Where were you starting at that point, and sort of describe, I guess, the everything that had gotten you guys to this point previously?
Sure. Now, Smarter Club is quite a large enterprise. There's going to be a lot of information for like the system that's not represented here. But early 2020 for our e-commerce customer facing system, we were really a classic three-tier web solution, client server based. So, you know, uh, mobile, desktop, both web through a load balance to some web servers, and then backing persistence, traditional web and database backed. This is where we were starting. And early in the year, we knew we had to do the switch over from our um, existing identity solution, which was baked into our web framework, to Okta. And so later in the year, we knew it would really get more complicated as we brought in more and more components. But early 2020, we were pretty standard client server three-tier web-based solution.
It's funny. I was having another talk for Octane earlier today, and we were describing three-tiered architectures and sort of what is now, cloud native. And we're all lamenting about how we miss the simplicity of the days when it was just that, right? I had a front end tier and a back end tier and some intermediaries. I remember when you and I were talking about some of your guys' insights into your existing implementation. One of the things I recall you saying is that you discovered, even in your, what you call your legacy implementation, you noticed a
Mhm.
bunch of web usage on mobile,
Yes.
and how that was sort of surprising to you given your customer base. To talk to me about that, like some of that discovery
Right.
and what that led to some decision making on your side.
Sure. So we monitor and do analytics on all the data we can. And so, system usage and client device information is highly scrutinized. And so, what we've known for some time was um, the amount of traffic to our e-commerce site was heavily skewed towards mobile. I think we were like 70-30 mobile versus desktop. And in the mobile space, US especially, highly skewed towards iOS, Apple devices. So mobile Safari was always top of the list.
Mhm.
And then, um, Android, various browsers, and then desktop far behind. So we knew the ecosystem we wanted to build towards should definitely include that mobile experience. So this was kind of the information we used to say this is where we are, but where we need to go should account for that uh, mobile native experience.
I think it's really interesting when you discover how your customers make their decisions in what environments, right? So in your guys' case, it must have seemed like an aha moment that people are making purchasing decisions on their phone for things that are healthcare related, are going to be, sort of changing fundamental decisions of like, I'm choosing to address some concerns I may have had as a person. That to me was sort of surprising. I would expect that to be something maybe people would have done at home or in a setting where they're doing a bunch of research, but very telling insight.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think we've both been around long enough to remember when there was no mobile web,
Yeah,
um,
for
and
sure, for
and
sure.
to see people move so far into that, and embracing mobile and as just part of the daily behavior. Really powerful information, and having those insights really did help let us target where we needed to grow our system.
All right, so let's talk about that then. Those sort of where you guys are going.
Sure.
So in your case, the project I think I recall had actually started as a web project. You get
Yep.
this insight now from your customer usage based on the analytics you talked about, identify the strong mobile opportunity, and you guys decide to create two tracks.
Yeah, that's one of the great things that leveraging a partner like Okta really let us do is um, s- utilize our web teams and mobile teams in parallel. So we just said that when we looked at the usage patterns, we were heavily browsed by mobile clients and iOS. So um, we knew we were going to do the mobile or the Okta integration for web during 2020. And we also knew that launching a mobile native application for our customers after purchase to help them through treatment was a top company goal, and we didn't want to add a lot of overhead and complexity of those two teams having to coordinate, and utilizing Okta and the expert services team allowed us to have those dual tracks. So by the end of the year, this is kind of what we were, simple picture looking for, is to having the our legacy web solution still serving desktop and mobile web experiences, but we were going to have our vNext web, so our spa-based single page application approach to web coming out, and in 2020 we were targeting that mobile native experience. And again, we we knew we were going to integrate Okta into the web, and so this let us just start the mobile application development straight away on Okta. Um, and this was, a simple but key component into delivering that unified user experience to our customers. They start the journey on the web or in one of our shops. They, get a username and a password, and then they they get their product, they get the app, and they sign in there. Um, or use single sign-on to transition if they've signed in on the web already. So it really just, again, gets the security element out of the way. We're
Mhm.
leveraging Okta for, all the great things that it provides, and letting us focus on delivering that seamless, simple, easy to use experience to our customers. Get get it secured and get out of the way.
I think the mobile aspects of your efforts are the most interesting. One is the discovery. It's always uh, uh, useful when you have this key customer insight moment that fundamentally changes maybe the direction you're taking things. But in a lot of mobile application projects, they're either simply doing a responsive website design, and that's the mobile delivery, or it's a native app, but it's just web view. In your guys' case, I think you leverage deeply a lot of the native capabilities of the mobile device itself. So
Mhm.
talk about that. I think it's a really colorful part of the project. Of It's not just a way to experience a website and a web experience on a mobile device, but you guys are actually looking at all the other capabilities that the mobile device probably brings.
Sure. So again, our treatment is the clear aligners for the customers, and so after they receive the product, that's where the app or the first drop of the app really picks up, is in treatment, and it allows our customers to leverage, the camera and video chat to get immediate assistance, and that may seem simple. We have chat available on the web, but you know just having, you're always going to have your phone, your mobile device right at arm's reach. And if you're having a problem, right, it's going to be a very important problem to you. It's a very personal problem. You have a question, you have a concern. So when we launched the mobile app, it allows somebody to pick up that app, get past any like security question, right? They use like the single sign-in, drop straight into the app. They're already authenticated, and then spin up either a chat session or a video chat session with one of our dental team representatives to get that question answered. Really does help transform the way we can help deliver care to our customers. It's, I think we've all been, kind of stuck with that authentication problem, right? I really don't want to make that sound trivial. That stops me a lot of times from dealing with like my bank, right? If I want to log into my bank, if it's on a new device, I've got to go through the security
Right.
questions. I always, I never answer them honestly, right? Because that can be found out. I'm trying to remember like all the weird answers I gave, and eventually I'll just give up. And so plugging in Okta, right, it lets us authenticate that person. As soon as they're in the app, we know who they are. We have all their account information. We can connect them to a care representative and just jump right into helping them solve their problem.
Yeah, the mobile app really becomes part of your product, right? That's how your customers are experiencing as much of the appliance as it is the relationship with you, the company.
Yeah.
I mean, super telling as you describe, interacting with the care team because wearing a dental appliance, you probably have more interactions than just getting help on a product you might buy from a retailer, right? So it makes a lot of sense about how important that was, and why the mobile device now makes that feel like a more private experience than if you were just sitting somewhere on your laptop engaging over a website.
Yeah, 100%.
Now, your original design had Okta as the auth provider, I think, for the web project. Were there any new considerations when you decided to take on this mobile set of requirements?
So we had high confidence that Okta would be that single authentication provider for web, mobile, et cetera. And I think one of the best things I could really tell people, like why using somebody like Okta specifically is just such a great option, is uh, if there was any question, right? So if there was a question, what's the experience going to be like in mobile native applications, right? We know it works for the web. What are we going to see? What's the difficulty in using it in mobile applications? Well, Okta has great developer documentation at the ready. I was able to point our mobile developers to a trial account, and then, when we really got down to it, we could always get you guys on the phone and say, you know, tell me about some of your other customers, some success stories. Where did they run into issues? What are the things we need to look out for? Um, and that just builds confidence in the choice, and then lets us kind of go heads down with Okta, and not really have plan B in the works.
So I appreciate that feedback, John. Part of the developer experience and developer documentation team is, in my extended group, we work hard on that. As developers ourselves, you're trying to produce things that you would want to use, that's consumable in the way that you do that. So great to hear that kind of feedback from you guys. From a team organization perspective, like talk about how you guys organize, because I would assume, or maybe not, like did you have an existing mobile organization that you just sort of brought in, or did you have to stand that up adjacent to your web team?
We had an existing mobile department. It was very small, and it still is. We run very lean, and we have highly skilled team members. But we did leverage two internal teams. One handled the implementation and transition for the web solution, and then the mobile team was heads down working on this customer facing behavior. And we came to them and said, we're gonna roll in the Okta auth solution. What do you guys need? And that's where documentation, really good documentation came in great use. We just pointed them there. It looks good. It reads good. It's not fluff. It's not overly technical.
Mm.
So, just at first glance, the developers, say, this looks good. I think I can, give it a shot. Let them loose on a trial account. And within a day or two, they had a, functional proof of concept with the feedback of, yeah, no problem. We're just going to plug into the existing one. And there was a couple of touch point meetings between the web team and the mobile team to make sure everything was on track. But overall, having all those materials, publicly available, and the ability to just leverage Okta's, directly through a phone call, really just let those two teams focus on what they needed to and just stay on their own separate track. We were really able to run parallel with very little communication overhead.
I mean, it's great when that's actually the entire value proposition of SaaS, right? Is that you've got this
Yeah.
consistent experience regardless of the client technologies are used. So it's always great when it actually works out that way. I've definitely been on occasions of projects where it didn't quite work out that way. And when you get into native mobile versus web, often the case is you uncover some rough edges. So it sounds great that you guys actually didn't. It was super smooth.
Very smooth. One of the things I think to call out before we transition off the slide is the public APIs box. Part of this move from client server technology to client side technology, whether it be responsive single page apps or mobile development, you lose that demilitarized zone, secure web server location, and you're going to have to provide public APIs. And for a lot of developers, that's a different world.
Yeah.
And this is again where Okta shines. They provide, you guys provided SDKs that tackle all the authentication and validation to let us just leverage the tokens securely and correctly from day one. Again, one of those things that allowed the teams to focus on delivering value to the client and just feeling safe and secure that Okta had our backs with the really nitty gritty technical detail.
I mean, you're getting some interesting parts of the flow, and maybe I'd like to have you talk a bit about that specific on the, your customer facing mobile
Yep.
flow related
Yep.
to where your client technology was implemented, where you had delegation of things to your SaaS provider. So it's a little deeper in that implementation. So I think I recall this was a standard OAuth 2 pattern, correct?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
And on the client architecture, maybe you can describe that. I think you guys used the like a hosted sign-in experience with us that allowed you to customize it. But maybe talk a bit about your client decision and client architecture.
Sure. So Okta provides, two different experiences, or at least two different experiences for sign-in. We actually use the hosted sign-in page for our web solution and the sign-in widget for our mobile. That was those decisions were made first off for web to have that 100% high fidelity match when we rolled out. Using the widget in the mobile application allowed us to get something up and going very quickly. It was going to be a different form factor anyway, so there was we could have a slight tweak to that. But overall, like you said, it's a very spec standard OAuth 2 flow where for our B2C use cases, the users open up our app and then they're presented with a sign-in experience, right? But that sign-in experience is provided by Okta. So the UI and UX they have there, right? It's your system. The users are sharing their credentials securely through that system, and then getting back an identity and access tokens. And it's that token-based auth which we use to secure our API. So our B2C mobile application talks 100% to some new APIs that we developed to support it. Those APIs are secured in the context of the user. So I don't know if you want me to go into the really low-level details, but this impacts the way we do our API and endpoint design.
Yeah, no, I think it's actually a really good lesson learned, and I see this in a lot of large scale implementations where identity gets thought of from a like customer authentication step only, and then you sort of don't appreciate that in a microservices based world or anywhere you're dealing with APIs. There's an inherent zero trust problem there too, right? How do APIs basically talk to other APIs? And the identity challenge propagates through all of that, and you have to think cohesively around how I'm going to solve that. To your point, what's my standards based tokening scheme to make that happen, and how do I sort of do that at scale? Now, so you guys were cloud deployed, obviously, from the diagram here.
Yep.
You're using OAuth 2 pattern for both the customer login and then the actual backend services. Maybe talk a little about what were some of those backend capabilities that you guys were integrating into the larger system.
So since we were moving from client server web development, we had kind of a monolithic backend, and the companies started working on partitioning those out into fine grained services, microservices architecture. But our backend was kind of set up for that client server mode of operation. When we did this move to client side development, mobile development, we had to stand up some public facing APIs. Like I said, those were net new, and what we did there is frame them right from the start to be in the user context. So if you were to look at our mobile APIs, you won't see CRUD admin type API endpoints where you're requesting give me user 123's information, give me user 456's information. We run everything off of that identity and access token structure. So the user presents that JWT token or JWT that they receive from Okta to the API. It's a bearer token in the header, and we process that. We verify that token was issued by Okta. Again, that's standards-based security. We cache the public key so we don't have that round trip every time. That's a key consideration for anybody planning to do this. Is you don't want those external round trips to verify and every API call. You just get killed with that. But once we have verified the user's access token, we know who that user is. They can't masquerade. They can't ask for somebody else's information. The API is locked into giving them their information. It's give me my account information, give me my treatment plan, give me my records. And that lets us be very secure when we reach into that existing back end, that there's no injection or security issues that we can run into.
So your app, your APIs, your infrastructure, you had auth needs across the stack. Was OAuth or OIDC new to your team? Did they have background in sort of these auth implementations?
Not at a deep level. And in fact, that's what I found at many companies and working with many teams is, we're used to using these systems at some level. We might be familiar with the terms and terminology, but the really in-depth experience, I think that's very hard to come by. And honestly, it's overwhelming if you try and tackle that on your own. I mean, it's like I said at the very beginning, the main lesson I've learned in multiple attempts, both unsuccessful and successful, is don't roll your own. It's really, really difficult to get it right.
So let's talk a bit about your timelines, which I think could be shocking, depending if you were brought saying this is what we need to do it in, or it's amazing about how well you guys managed this.
Oh yeah, the timeline here was just fantastic. If anybody's gone through this themselves, this may shock you. And if you're looking to roll out something similar, and this is the fastest timeline I've ever seen this done in. So we really undertook this project January 2020. That's when we had made the decision. Okta was the decision. The teams had perused the development documentation, maybe played around with some of the trial account, but like I said, we split out the web track, and the web track was going to have to work on the implementing Okta, and then the transition from the existing web framework auth solution into Okta, and then providing that single sign-on capability. And then mobile, right, completely separate track. Again, the only decision we started off the year knowing was it's going to be Okta. So, we really started off just with that in January. We did have a couple of calls with Okta, and I would highly, highly recommend anybody who goes with Okta to take advantage of that. They are experts in this space, and again, it's really hard to become an expert in this space. So just schedule a call. So January, February, we aligned on the strategy. We had a couple of calls. Is it really this easy? The documentation makes it look very easy.
Right.
What are the gotchas, right? What are the gotchas in the web? Are there any gotchas in mobile? Let the developers kind of pitch around the ideas. This is how we think. This is how we're reading the documentation. This is how we're planning on implementing. And then we were off. So you can see, March and April, the web team started the migration process, and that syncing where we were provisioning and then constantly testing, but we hadn't done a full cutoff of the legacy. The front end development really just covers May through August, and then at the same time that the web front end is going on, mobile's plugging in. We have, once the mobile solution's integrated, we follow that up with a call to Okta. Here's what we've done. We get that thumbs up, thumbs down. Did we do it right? Are we going to run into any problems? Because it was a net new, right? We hadn't launched yet. And so both projects roll forward in the September timeframe. We're really thrilled with how the integration and transition has gone in web. We call that cutover complete. That lets us hit iOS public launch from the app shortly thereafter. So from really making the decision, we're gonna go with Okta. The contracts all signed. It's a go. In less than a year, right? We not only decided, had the couple of a web track, a mobile track, two different teams running heads down parallel, and then delivered two huge initiatives. I've seen either initiative go multiple years at other companies, and here we had two major changes and development initiatives run in parallel and click together at the end of the year.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to ask you your opinion, having done these in the past. My first blush was that this is an atypical timeline, considering the changes you guys had, especially in native mode development getting added sort of midstream, legacy modernization. But I think you would say the same thing, right? There's like everything sort of fell into place. This is what it should look like when everything works out of the box.
Yeah, it's and I really can't say enough about what having Okta on the phone, just a phone call away really does for these projects. Anytime there was any conversation, confusion, doubts, concerns on implementation, instead of speculating, going and trying things for weeks or whatever, we just got Okta on the phone and said, this is how we think we want to do things. Here's our A, B, C options. Have we missed anything, or are we good? And 9 times out of 10, we got your top choice looks good. You've read everything right. You're going to be fine. Occasionally, though, we were kind of nudged back into a certain direction. It's you can do that, but let's do this. If you do this, you're going to set yourself up for success. And I think that was really one of the largest enablers for this product was the tooling and support Okta provides. Along with the documentation and the trial academy, the user experience inside of Okta and the developer tools are really top notch. They really let you hand the development of these features down into your software engineering and development teams. You don't have to have a lot of talk. You can just say, here's the documentation, here's the credentials, get your hands on it.
Again, John, I really appreciate that feedback. I think you're also highlighting just the nature of like enterprise application development. Like every system is different, right? Because of the multitude of decisions that we have to make as developers. So at some point you want that architectural review, right? I've made decisions on client technology, backend technology. I've got SaaS deployments. I've got zero trust, and you've done your architectural steps, and then you're looking for best practices. So it's really good feedback there. So I think one of the key takeaways in talks like this that I always look for is, you sort of giving your perspectives to anyone else trying to think about projects like this. Like, what are some of the takeaways that you might highlight about doing a project like this to set it up for success?
Sure. So, one, have your own goals and outcomes in mind. For SmileDirect Club, we knew what we wanted to do. We knew we wanted to transition from kind of a you know integrated legacy web identity platform into single sign-on and a unified experience for our customers across web and mobile. Um, Once we knew that's what we wanted to do, you can then look for how are we going to provide that? And we landed on Okta and have just had great experiences by doing that. Um, it really is a difficult road to go down the do it yourself. So unless you're planning on distinguishing yourself somehow in that space, good luck. I'd really just suggest giving Okta a call. I mean, you've got pretty much everything you need right there. The pricing structure is really crisp and clear. You know, the development teams are going to really enjoy the low barrier to entry from the trials. It's super easy to get your hands on the actual technology. That's a big deal. You're not really kept away from the technology. You've got great documentation. You've got a good user community, support forums, and then once again, being able to just call Okta and say, I need a review. I think I'm on the right track, but this is what I'm planning on. And then just getting that, simple feedback of you're on the right track, keep going, can really make a difference in a project coming in on time or being very, very late.
So you mentioned your adoption numbers, which is fantastic. Is that how you guys are thinking about measuring success?
Um, well, one of the biggest early markers for success was no one knew anything, right? We swapped out
Uh-huh.
the web, and we have tens of thousands of active users. We've over 1 million customers, and there wasn't a complaint, right? We didn't help desk didn't light up. It was just no big deal, right? And that's honestly one of the greatest things you can experience when you're trying to launch a high risk project. And uh, you know this identity and access management, that's your security system. That's your front door. That's your locks and keys. So you want to get it right, but you don't want it to get in the way of anybody. And so yeah, we rolled out, and it was kind of hold our breath for a moment, and then nothing. Everything's still running. That was great. As far as like the mobile, yeah, just adoption's good. Getting people to download the app, and then getting past that first hurdle of log into something one more time, last time I swear, but get them in and then deliver that experience. So yeah, download and constant use numbers, we're watching that every day. We really do watch everything we can as far as analytics, and really do put a really high value on our customer feedback. We're a NPS driven company.
Got it. Got it. Well, John, congratulations on what looks like an incredibly successful project. It looks like there's a lot of learning. It also, more importantly, sounds like it's really delivering for your customers. It's always great for me to work with one of our teams, especially one that's got so many development centric aspects, and you've done it all from native mobile to back-end API security. And it's just, it's great to see when it all works like it should. So congratulations. I really appreciate you sharing your story with us and sharing your time. And as often the case, it takes an army, right? So I want to give you a chance
Yeah.
to sort of express any of your comments to your extended team as well.
Yeah, that's a really good call out. Um, I I leveraged a lot of good people to make this happen. We had a really strong team, both on the web and mobile. So the list of people you're seeing right here, these are the people that made it happen, hands on keyboard, and made this thing come to life, and had that rollout that just allows us to keep on moving forward. So thank you all. Thank you, John.